For the first time in my life, I'm truly free to see the clear-cut forest for the poison sea, to see the waters occupy the shores of Jersey, and I feel alive.
Hey, what's up? Let's do a podcast.
Oh there, not much. How about you?
I am good on the Sunday afternoon where my news item is gonna make 0 cents because we're uploading it next week. Um, yeah, it's an interesting day, isn't it? It's finally getting winter, and
Yeah,
then I'm
although it's the time of year where the sun streams through my windows and it's a balmy 75
in your room or outside.
in my room.
Oh, isn't that nice? My room's just perpetually cold and there's nothing we can do about it. We've had so much insulation pumped in. Today we're going to be starting our two-part series on sea level rise. Starting with one, we're going to be doing a
Wait,
how it's made type thing. We're going to talk about calculus and thermodynamics. Well, I'm going to be talking about calculus and thermodynamics. Anyway, let's get into our news item. So this we're recording this on the 12th and it will be uploaded on the 19th. So we won't really have the full extent of what's happening until then, but the episode that is going to be uploaded on today, the 12th, that we recorded last week, we were talking about how there's just been a lack of snow and rain so far in the wet season. Well, we got our wish, I guess. So, Northern Sierra, which is right here, is projected to get about 9 feet of snow between today and tomorrow.
wow.
This is a big ass atmospheric river as of yesterday afternoon. That's just going to be intensifying over the next week. San Francisco is going to be raining pretty much all week. And Cascades, basically it's taking storms that would hit the Canadian Rockies for a week and then putting them south, which is where, California gets most of its water in just a few storms. So this is one of them. It's undoubtedly a very good thing. So
Yeah.
we very much like that this is happening, but all of these passes are getting about over 80 inches of snow. So if you're trying to get on I-80, you're probably not going to be able to. Yeah, don't try to travel through the Sierra this weekend or this week. It's going to be a bad time.
Yep.
But holy shit, everywhere is getting so much snow.
What is that? Over 100 inches of snow in Wasson Park?
Yeah, that's like at the top though.
Hmm.
But like this is the 3 to 6 day snowfall. The entire Rocky Mountains are getting snow. Yeah, this is good. This is what we want. Hopefully this doesn't stop. On a less fun note, we had a Christmas tornado. A very deadly one. Like I don't know why there's such little news on this, but Friday night a tornado killed 70 people. It was one of the longest on record. And there's nothing natural about a tornado that's happening in mid-December that kills 70 people. And that's one of the longest in history, but essentially the conditions that happened are what mimicked spring tornado season. You have cold, dry air from the north, warm, moist air from the south, hitting a wall of high pressure, creating a tornado.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff to see. This is really not a phenomenon that should be happening.
Yeah, I read a piece this morning and it was like, is this attributed to climate change? The answer is maybe. It's always really hard to say with these weather events because tornadoes in December are not unheard of, but they're not exactly common.
Yeah.
This is just a map.
Oftentimes the part that you attribute more to climate change is when you get 500-year storms in 50 years.
Yeah,
That's kind of the more visible aspect.
because how climate change affects tornadoes is unclear. The only thing that really is clear is that tornadoes that usually historically happen in Oklahoma and Kansas are now starting to happen further east. Um, whatever that means, I have no idea, but this was a very interesting weather week. This kind of just happened. The snow is good though. We'll take the snow.
Yeah.
But moving on. So Jerry Seinfeld is in his scuba gear today. What's up with the ocean? What do we think about it?
The ocean very important. It's a very large carbon sink, and it is a very large source of life. Both of those
According
things are being risked.
according to the Great Global Warming Swindle, though, it's like the ocean is causing climate change by releasing carbon dioxide.
Ah, yes, the Great Global Warming Swindle.
I don't know why we reviewed that. Still our most viewed video. We're just getting people who are looking the documentary up. So, unsurprisingly, hotness equals ice meltage. This is a map of permafrost in the US. Most of it's in Russia. Very few of it's in the US. But it's where it's always below freezing. And when you look at that straight line up in the last 200 years
Yeah.
for Arctic summer temperature. And the thing about global warming is that when it's 1.5 degrees Celsius raised or whatever it's warmed by, it's not entirely uniform 1.5 across the world. Some areas get colder, some areas get warmer. And the Arctic is warming the most out of pretty much anywhere on the Earth. Um, we don't like the warming Arctic, do we?
We do not.
I
That's going to be a very big drop.
It's like, go ahead. You're cutting out.
Oh, I am?
Yeah, you're good now.
Okay.
It's giving a lot of like fodder for sci-fi writers because it's always like some virus or like some crashed alien spaceship that was frozen in the Siberian permafrost. Now that climate change is happening, it's being released.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because like I'm trying to think of the movie that it is, but there was one that came out last year where it was like aliens that were frozen. And then it's like all of the
Hmm.
like the indie zombie films viruses came out of there. So it just might happen. And then meltage is an increase in volume. So this is for no other reason than to visualize how much ice was lost. But about 28 trillion tons of ice melted in the last 24 years at an exponential rate. Most of that's happening in Antarctica. Very little of it's happening in Greenland, but this is a very interesting visual representation. So this is 1 gigaton of water, and this is Central Park. This is 109 gigatons on the same scale. Gigaton is the metric prefix of 1 billion, and trillion is obviously a trillion. So about 280 times this is how much water was added to the ocean in the last 24 years just by melting salt water. Sorry, melting glaciers.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of water. It's not really affecting the global drinking water supply because, we're not really getting our water from any of these places. But what it is affecting is the volume of the ocean. So here I'm going to go off on a tangent of calculus and shit. So
Alright.
here's our intro to thermodynamics. So we're going to be talking about thermal expansion. So carbon dioxide causes the greenhouse effect. And about 90% of the heat that is absorbed in the earth through the greenhouse effect is absorbed by the oceans. So as heat is added to a substance by law of thermodynamics, it will expand in a process called thermal expansion. And about a third of sea level rise can be attributed to that thermal expansion. So as the ocean physically heats up, as it's been doing, the water will expand. So this is the equation of the thermal expansion of a nonlinear alpha. Oh. So this term right here, V plus delta V over V, is just the change in volume. So if I have 2 cubic meters of something and it changed by 0.2 cubic meters of something, that's 2.2 divided by 2. So 1.1, it increased, but the volume increased by 10%. So this term is just the percent change. So the natural log of the percent change is equal to the integral of alpha t dt. So how much the temperature is changing over time. the area under that graph. So that would mean that the percent change is equal to natural E to the power of that integral. And in practice, alpha, which is the coefficient of thermal expansion, changes based on pressure. So you would need an integral inside the integral to denote the change in alpha over pressure as you go deeper. But that's not terribly important. The graph looks something like this. So this is the volume, and then this is the temperature. So when you go to ice, it actually increases its volume. I don't quite understand why that happens. I don't know if you do.
I don't, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's the one thing I couldn't figure out. But the graph looks something like this. So in general, as the temperature of water increases, its volume increases as well. And water has a very high specific heat capacity, especially salt water. So it's 3850 joules per kilogram per degree Celsius. You need to add 3,850 joules to every kilogram of water to increase it by 1 degree Celsius. And a 3850 joules is the amount of effort to lift a refrigerator up like 15 flights of stairs.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's about that. All right. So how fucked are we for sea level rise?
Good
The
question.
answer is it depends.
Yeah, like most things.
Yeah, so this is the sea level relative to 2000. And we have a few different arcs that we could possibly follow here. CO2 emissions reach 0 by 2100. That one is maybe
Maybe.
likely. I'd say about 50-50 for that one. But that would get us anywhere between 0.7 and 1 meter of sea level rise by the end of the century. I'm sorry, by 2300. Emissions stabilized by 2100. That one is pretty much most likely what's going to happen. Between 1 and 2 meters of sea level rise. And then the high emission scenario, which is where just absolutely nothing changes. That one probably won't happen.
I think that one won't happen. I think at least it's the least likely of the three to happen, just
Yeah.
because people are getting more active about climate change. People are becoming more aware. There's
And
gonna be some new like legislature changes, and
even if none of that happened, it's still like you wouldn't. There's not enough fossil fuels to keep on going this hard for the next 300 years.
yeah,
Yeah, so it's like, and even if you wanted to. So all of that water, you're melting fresh water into salt water. So that's changing the ocean's composition a lot. So the ocean is getting fresher. It's usually about, in terms of its total dissolved solids, its salt composition is about 18,000 parts per million. Parts per trillionth.
Hmm.
No, I'm sorry, that's just chlorine. That's just chloride ions. So 30, yeah, about 30,000 parts per trillion. So that's really salty. There's a lot of other stuff in there too. So potassium, bicarbonate, boron, strontium. Yeah, okay, whatever. I am not going to pretend that I know much about chemistry.
the ocean is really 86% solids.
No, that's this is total dissolved solids. So
Oh, and that's
this is
different.
80%. All of this is 86% of the things that are dissolved in there. So there's a bunch of
Oh,
other
okay. So
stuff too.
that's the total of everything above it, and then adding to water is 90.
Yeah,
Next.
water is the main component, obviously. This is just a graph of different ions that are in there.
Hmm.
Ah! Oh my goodness. It is a tired day, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yes,
this
it
is
is.
probably going to be a quick one, but there's this little thing called the Atlantic Gulf Stream. So it's this current thingy, and it gets cold water down here and warm water up there to lovely England. And it does a few things. The first thing is, you know how like no hurricanes or pretty much any bad storms happen in Europe?
Yeah, that's
That's
actually a good
why.
point.
Yeah, and it relies heavily off of salt water sinking and then it rising as it I don't quite understand it, but it depends on water being salty. So as the water gets fresher, it gets weaker, and it's reached its weakest point in about 2,000 years. What will happen isn't exactly clear, but what is known, I guess, from like ice core samples is that when it weakens, a large area of the ocean around Iceland cools as less warm water is brought north, and then the waters off the east coast get warmer. So there's going to be more sea level rise on the east coast. And then not only that, it would disrupt global weather systems, disrupting monsoon season in India, so growing crops such as rice. Yeah, but something that is kind of toyed with, it's not exactly clear, but causing a mini ice age or global cooling event is completely unsubstantiated.
Yeah, I think some people say that. Some people say, "Oh, the Earth will go into another ice age," and why?
Maybe in 10,000 years.
What makes you think so?
Yeah, their proof is the what this picture is from, a The Day After Tomorrow that came out in 2004. That one just showed it was kind of toying with like the Gulf Stream shutting down and then like a devastating freeze happening. The basics were of the science were portrayed correctly, and it was definitely exaggerated because this all the events of this movie happened in like 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah, yeah. So
even
that's not exactly likely.
I think the only reasoning you could provide for an ice age would be it's happened before, it'll happen again. To which I say, are we really going to be here in the next
Are we
10,000
gonna
something
be here
years?
long enough to witness?
Yeah,
I'd take the chance of a another ice age in 10,000 years if that meant we would live for that long.
absolutely.
Because by then we'd have something to fix it, hopefully.
Would probably know the looming cooling effect.
Yeah, it's like I guess it could make sense. So if you shut down the Gulf Stream, you have more cold weather events happening in Europe. But again, I guess it amounts to some zero and just being more variable weather events, which is what climate change does. I guess that's
Yeah,
how the last ice age happened, but I think there was more going on than just that. I don't know. We're not meteorologists here.
yeah,
Um, I found this better picture of the south of kind of the South US and what might happen in terms of how fucked we are. So this is a graph and it shows the ocean, what would like which land would be exposed for which sea level rise. So this is the current coastline. Interestingly, this is what it would be 130 meters below sea level. So a lot of everyone on the Gulf Coast is going to be real pissed off that their oceanfront property is no longer. Yeah, it's like 100 miles inland, and all the boomers who spent like $8 million on a condo they go to twice a decade are going to be pissed off. Okay, so the red is what will sink if things raise by 2 meters, which we discussed is highly likely. So the entire Mississippi River Delta is basically going to be underwater.
yeah.
Raising by 4 meters, the entire Everglades are going to be gone. Raising by 10 meters, most of Florida, and then raising by 80 meters, all of the East Coast and Mississippi
And
River Basin.
Louisiana at that point is pretty much gone entirely.
Yeah. Yeah, Louisiana was really, it's real fucked. It's like most of its land.
Yeah, even if the 2 meter scenario is the one that happens, they still are in a pretty bad scenario.
Yeah, Louisiana, it's like it's so low lying. Like if you ever go there, so much of their infrastructure, we're going to talk more about this next week, but so much of their infrastructure is built around insanely expensive and energy intensive pumping plants that
Yeah.
every time it rains are just going crazy. I have a picture of it here actually, but stuff like this
Oh
for
wow.
the next episode. Yeah, so next episode we'll get into kind of resilience and how countries are either trying to have genuine solutions for sea level rise or kind of do what New Orleans is doing and just kind of try to build your way out of it. We'll
Yeah.
talk about that next week after our admittedly kind of short episode today because I guess we're both feeling a little under the weather.
It's a lazy Sunday. I've been having tech issues and I've been routing cables for the last few days and things are still not quite working.
For what?
My old desk was bad. If I sat at it, I couldn't fit into it. It was a small desk, so I've got
Okay.
a new desk.
Very nice. I also I treated myself and I bought an actually nice mic, XLR mic with a DAC, standalone, because I'm tired of you sounding way better than me.
Good stuff. I've got a condenser mic too.
Is it on like one of those stupid like mic stands that don't work?
No, mine works. Mine works pretty well.
I didn't even bother with one of those. I just bought like a regular tripod.
Oh, those are fine.
And I'll be there in a couple of weeks. Of course, I didn't want to pay like $80 for shipping.
Yeah. I like the stand mostly just because it pivots so I can say, oh, I'm loud now, but if I want to be
Whoa,
all in. Yeah.
it's extremely variable. All right. Anything else?
Shout outs. Let's see. Shout out to the state of Louisiana. I think they need it.
Yeah, shout out to the state of Louisiana. Please don't sink. Yeah,
Yeah,
I have
please
this
don't
theory
sink.
for how cities can get around climate change. So, right, so every time you build something, you need to build it on the other side of the town. And then as the buildings on the other side of the town need to be demolished, they get demolished and then get rebuilt on the other side of the town. So the city is slowly moving to higher ground.
Work.
It'll work over the course of like 100 years.
Although then
Then
people love their oceanfront real estate.
dude, people are still loving their oceanfront real estate. Like it's not that exciting. Like you go
It's
there,
an ocean.
half the time you can't even see because it's so foggy, and then the other half the time you need to be worried in case your like house falls into the ocean for any reason.
Yeah. I'd rather be maybe a mile away.
A mile away. Yeah, be close, but don't die in a hurricane. I always like to wonder how you like come back to your town that gets destroyed by a hurricane every 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And it's like I saw this meme and it was that like Monsters Inc. meme where they're all walking in and it was like people in the South on their way to rebuild their house every 2 years.
The insurance situation like down there. I feel like if a town like New Orleans or some parts of southern Texas get hit by hurricanes every other year, what's going on?
Their flood insurance is like $1,800 a month.
Oh my god.
It's probably more than that. Yeah, the flood insurance down there is nuts. Alright, I'm not gonna try to drag this out any longer. We're tired. Bye!
See ya.
The point of contention is how they act. Where you draw the line will set you free. The debate is over.